This is the leaked plot of Chapter 1 of Lord of Heaven 10. After Mecha's death and Rutila's kidnapping, Aurelio will have the difficult task of telling the family what happened with Mecha and Rutila's situation, so that once he arrives at the house, he will be the first to whom he will address will be Diego, and he tells him the bad news of his mother's death, and even shows him the video at the time of his mother's death, and tells him that everything does not end there, but that Rutila is also in the power of this new enemy, which will make Diego very sad, but you now decide. Together with Aurelio La Felina and Ismael in rescuing Rutina safely, so Aurelio immediately decides to call Juan Hernandez since he suspects that he could be behind Mecha's death and Rutila's kidnapping. So this calls Juan Hernandez very confused, who tells him that he has absolutely nothing to do with that and that he has just found out, and that the most possible thing is that whoever is behind Mecha's death can play the honey since he was the one who was thirsty for revenge for the death of his sister. So Aurelio will have no choice but to trust Juan's words, and he will charge him to find out who is helping La Melosa to carry out this whole plan, since you know that La Melosa has neither the men nor the power to do all this. So Aurelio Casillas will quickly put his new hacker to the test. Let's remember that she is the hacker who belonged to the corporal. So he quickly orders him to enter the security cameras of the house in which La Mecha was at that time in Tamaulipas. And after a while, he manages to discover the true face of Fabrizio Hernandez Solano, who was the one who directly murdered La Mecha. So Aurelio, when he sees his face and the name of Fabrizio Hernandez Solano, he will remember that in the past they did business in El Gabacho, but he clarifies that he never had any type of inconvenience with him. So the person directly responsible for all this is La Melosa, and Fabrizio Hernandez Solano only provided help to La Melosa. But what Aurelio really doesn't know is that Fabrizio Hernandez Solano was sent by Interpol so that they could weaken him and then capture him. So at that precise moment, the hacker tells him that in fact Fabrizio Hernandez Solano should be imprisoned in the United States since he has not yet served his sentence, which will immediately make Aurelio suspect that he could be directly linked to the DEA or Interpol. After several investigations by Aurelio's hacker, she manages to find Rutila's whereabouts, and she has her very well guarded in an abandoned warehouse in the south of Tamaulipas. So Aurelio quickly begins to plan a lightning operation to immediately rescue his daughter Rutila. So Aurelio organizes with the feline Ismael, Diego, and all the men he has to go rescue her. But now Aurelio Casillas' objective will not only be Fabrizio Hernandez Solano, but this upon discovering that Fabrizio is actually Juan's father. Now Juan and directly La Melosa has also become a target. So the day comes and Aurelio will arrive in Tamaulipas with all his men along with the feline Diego and Ismael. This quickly surround the winery in which Rutila is located. There is also La Melosa, Juan Hernandez, and Fabrizio Hernandez Solano. So once they reach the outskirts of Said Winery, there will be a big shooting. In Said shooting, Aurelio will have a great advantage, and it is the surprise factor since Fabrizio Hernandez. This sudden attack by the Casillas was not expected, so Aurelio manages to greatly reduce the security forces of Fabrizio and La Melosa. Just when they manage to enter said warehouse where Rutila is located, there is Fabrizio Hernandez who has a gun put to his head. Rutila Este is also there with Juan, who has decided to betray Aurelio since he is his father, and La Melosa and several of the men that Fabrizio still has are also there, so that Fabrizio will seriously threaten Aurelio with end Rutila's life if he does not surrender in exchange for his daughter. So Aurelio will quickly order all his men to lay down their weapons since it is about the safety of his daughter, and he decides to make the exchange in such a way that the exchange takes place that Rutila passes into the hands of Diego, Ismael, and La Feline, and Aurelio will pass into the hands of Fabrizio, Juan Hernandez, and La Melosa. Once this happens, Aurelio's hacker quickly sends all her drones to follow the truck in which Fabrizio left with Aurelio. But before this, Fabrizio Hernandez already had a plan by which Aurelio once began to attack from the outskirts in the warehouse where he was with Rutila. He decided to call Interpol so that they could provide him with reinforcements. So while Fabrizio Hernandez goes with Aurelio in the truck, there they meet several Interpol trucks: Ismael, La Felina, Rutila, and Diego. Those who go after his father encounter this scene at the precise moment in which Fabrizio Hernandez turns Aurelio over to Interpol. This will be left with a helpless look since they can't do anything, since the Interpol people added to Fabrizio's men are too many. But Ismael Casillas quickly decides to call the president, who in this case has already been positioned as President Jaime Rosales, and he gives him the order to close all airports and borders so that they cannot extradite Aurelio. So Jaime Rosales quickly complies with the order, and El Faro is in charge of executing it, so that when Interpol arrives with Aurelio at the Tamaulipas airport to be illegally extradited directly to the United States, they find that said airport is closed. So this will give them some time for them to reorganize a new rescue plan to go for Aurelio, but We believe that Alfaro is now working for the Casillas, but this is a complete traitor, so he decides to reach an agreement with Interpol and this will open the way for them to extradite Aurelio. La Feline quickly receives the whistle and all the boxes head towards said airport, but when they arrive there, Alfaro and his men will receive him there with bullets, ensuring that the plane in which they are carrying Aurelio manages to take off together with the agents of the Interpol. After this, the Casillas will manage to greatly reduce all of Alfaro's men and manage to capture him, and just when they have him there in front, they realize his betrayal and there they all decide to sew him up with lead, and this will be Alfaro's death. So on this occasion, the Casillas failed to rescue Aurelio from the hands of Interpol. Let me know in the comments, do you think the family will risk going to Gabacho to rescue Aurelio? I read them below in the comments. You know, if you don't want to... After Aurelio Casillas is extradited by Interpol to the United States, the DEA and Interpol will begin to persecute the family, and the trigger for this was the brutal murder by the Casillas of Alfaro, who was completely stitched up. After this, Ismael ordered the president, that is Jaime Rosales, so that he will remove the DEA and Interpol agencies from Mexican soil so that they will finally stop persecuting them. At first, Jaime Rosales refused, but then Ismael threatened Jaime Rosales with letting public opinion know who put him in. Los Pinos was Aurelio, and in addition to bringing to public light the links that he had with the Colombian cartels, so that Jaime Rosales will have no choice but to do exactly what Ismael Casillas is demanding of him. But in addition to this, Jaime Rosales will ask Ismael that there must be peace in the country, and Ismael agrees with this since they have a strategy so that once the DEA and Interpol are expelled from the country, the Casillas clan will begin to create a plan to be able to go rescue Aurelio Algabat. Meanwhile, Aurelio finds himself in a prison of more and more security in the United States. Aurelio Casillas will manage to negotiate with the DEA to allow him a visit by his daughter Rutila, so he will reach an agreement with the DEA and this will allow him said visit. Once Rutila arrives with Aurelio, she will tell him about the plans they have to rescue him, but Aurelio will tell him that it is a very risky plan and that he does not want to risk the lives of any of his men or his family, so he tells Rutila it is his plan, and his plan is to reach a negotiation with the DEA and Interpol so that they make a big reduction in his sentence since he is bored. Having been running from the authorities all the time, once Rutila returns to Mexico again, she decides to tell Aurelio's plans to the family and they agree with this. So now Ismael, Diego, La Felina, and Rutila propose to completely put an end to Fabrizio Hernandez Solano's organization, headed by Fabrizio Juan and La Melosa. But they have a plan up their sleeve, and their plan is to allow Fabrizio's cartel to keep the Tamaulipas land and sign an apparent peace for after they lower the guard to make a forceful attack and put an end to all of them, so that Ismael will call Juan Hernandez and he proposes said peace. Juan will mention it to Fabricio and he, although very doubtful, will accept it since it is not convenient for him to tarnish his resume again, since recently his file has been cleaned thanks to the fact that he collaborated with Interpol and handed over Aurelio, so that Fabricio Hernandez Solano will remain on the defensive. But the moment will come when they will let down their guard, so that after a while and an apparent peace between both cartels, Fabricio's cartel, it will try to expand and they will go to the DF to negotiate with the Colombian cartel. Through the monitoring that the hacker has of Fabricio, they manage to intervene several calls and realize that they will meet in the next few hours in an abandoned warehouse south of the city with a Colombian cartel. And this is where they agree. All of them believe that it is the perfect time to go finish them off so that the time comes. Ismael, Rutila, La Felina, and Diego gather a large number of their men and they leave towards the place. Once they arrive at said place, there they will be attacking with grenade launchers so that there will be a big explosion and a big shooting, thus achieving what continues to greatly reduce all of Fabricio's men. But for bad luck of those, Fabricio was not there, and only Juan and La Melosa were there. They will try to escape, but they are surrounded and captured. It is there where Diego will take the opportunity to avenge the death of his mother, and he will begin torturing La Melosa and Juan in a slow way, and after they die, Ismael orders them to cut, arm, put their bodies in suitcases and send them directly to Fabricio Hernandez Solano's house. Once these suitcases arrive at the door of Fabricio's house, he opens them and there he finds the body of his lover, that is Melosa, and the body of his son Juan Hernandez. This will make him very sad but at the same time very angry, and from there he will begin to expand his cartel even further and recruit a large number of men. Aurelio, who is still in the United States, will receive the great news of the death of La Melosa and Juan Hernandez. This one will be very proud of the work he has done. your family. But now he knows that the reprisals that Fabricio Hernandez will take against his family will bring serious consequences. So he now believes that it is time to escape from said prison, and he will begin to devise a plan with several of the convicts who are there in the same penitentiary in which he is. And he decides not to tell her absolutely anything about the escape plans he has for his family, since he doesn't want to involve him or put them at risk. If you want to know what the outcome of this story will be, if Aurelio Casillas will really manage to escape from the United States prison, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, leave a like and share this video, and wait for the third part of this plot.